Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast by Closers.io where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Samuel Konzem, and in each episode, we'll uncover the stories behind successful startups, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future expansion. Today, we're excited to have Elaine Houl, the CEO of Dentist Advisor Group, and she will be sharing more about her founding story, giving us a glimpse into her plans for future growth. So let's jump right in. Elaine, welcome to Founders Future.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. Take us back to the beginning. Your experience is, vast, with 26 years of experience in the dental space alone. However, it's been more recent that we transitioned into more of an embezzlement-focused consultancy. Walk us through what problem did we notice and what led us to actually embark on that journey into entrepreneurship with the current business.
Yeah, so actually in 1996, I started my dental career. And then in 1997 is when I discovered my first embezzlement. And it was crazy because whenever I discovered it, it was before computers. So it was a lot of paperwork and paper trails that got me to like start looking and questioning when patients would say that they would pay, but they weren't on the deposit slip or they weren't on the chart because the girl that was working in the front got sick. And she got sick and she said she'll be back the next day, but do not touch nothing. But whenever she left, she was gone for about over a week. I told the doctor I was nothing but 22 years old. And I told the doctor, I think I can do this, right? So then when he said, sure, because we needed to collect, we needed to keep going, I started seeing that patients were saying that they were paying, but it wasn't nowhere to be found, right? So then I kind of said, well, either the patient's lying or she's just forgetting to put stuff on the charts and on the deposit slips. But when people started talking about cash as well, I didn't know how to approach it, but I asked one patient, I was like, okay, this is patient number 10 that has said that they gave a check for 500. Now, back in 1997, when a lot of people don't know this, that normally banks would just say it was clear, the checks, and that was it. It didn't say to who or anything, it just said clear. And then that it went through. So then when one of the patients said, look, it said clear, like I can even go and get it from my bank. Like he was upset, right? Like I'm not lying here. So whenever he got the check and brought it over, it had her name on it, the girl that was working there. So she was actually putting her name on the checks and then cashing them. So that's how I discovered it. And once that happened, my whole life changed because I did not want to be a front office. I wanted to be a dental assistant and then transition to a hygienist. That was my whole goal. And she changed my life. And I'm pretty sure things were changing with the doctor's life after he found out that he was being embezzled. And then he actually told me, since you know so much about numbers, why don't you start? I was like, me? Like, I'm like 22. Like, I don't know how to, run a business. Like, this is your business. And I would see his kids come in and they were going to college and his wife was a lawyer. So I didn't think about it too much. But yes, there was a lot on my plate once I took the position to start running the business and learning more and more about the business at that time.
Mhm. And how did those experiences, specifically running that business, then affect, or how did they impact now with your current business where you're actually handling a lot of that embezzlement, those issues, addressing those, how to overcome those, and like best practices in that front? How have those experiences affected one affecting the other?
So to me, I kind of feel like even like moving forward, and I left that doctor and kept going. I went somewhere else for 10 years, and then I went somewhere else for 5. And then I was fortunate enough to actually do a startup. And that was probably one of the best things. Like I was like, I want to do a startup, so I want to be part of something from the beginning and see it grow. But I also noticed that every single dentist had the same. It was almost like they all said the same word over and over. I don't know the front office. I don't know the business. I'm glad that you do learn it. And to me, it was kind of scary because if you are a business owner as a dentist, as a private practice, you should know some of it, but it's okay because nobody really teaches the business side of it. People just, they just do the clinical and then they expect to hire people that have experience and then just do the trust. So the trust can, I've seen when they do hire people that have experience, that there is a lot of discrepancy about like how much they know and how updated they are when it comes to running a front office and a private practice.
Got it. Walk us through as well, more so on your side of the business. Like, how do you actually acquire your clients? Like, what does that process look like? Do you have specific channels that you have found work best, or is it, personal network, word of mouth? What have you noticed?
Well, for me, the way the way it started is just like right here, this podcast. It's amazing. I had a guy that I was on a podcast. His name is Mark Costas. He is like driven with the dentistry world. If you're a dentist or you're an entrepreneur, you will hear him. He has so many, he has so many podcasts. And I one day we were starting to talk, and he said, "Hey, can you be on my podcast?" I said, "Sure." And it was amazing because right there, within as soon as he made it live, within a week I had my first client that called me. Then I had another one. So I've been organically growing that way. And me not having anyone that I can just say, hey, you also do this with embezzlement, or you do, we're on the same side when it comes to consulting. I really don't have anybody that I can lean into when it comes for someone to guide me of like what to do and what not to do. It's all been me by myself, but I've been organically growing just by being on some podcasts, to be honest, and also going to conference and just showing up conferences with dentists. And then I am also a member of the Women in DSO. So it's a women in dentistry space. So it's really nice to just really be out there and show my face and just and say, hey, I'm here and this is what I'm doing.
And I would assume that's probably never an easy conversation to have with somebody as they're saying, like, hey, maybe there's something going on here that shouldn't be. How have you navigated that effectively, or what have you noticed is kind of the best way of approaching that conversation and ultimately getting them moving forward with you as a client so you can solve the problem?
So for one, I do have to say there's two things. It's like when I'm in a conference, I like that I can talk about, hey, I talk about, I like to talk about embezzlement risk and awareness. And then there might be 4 or 5 dentists there. And then one will say, I was embezzled. And like, I was too. And then it really, that once that one person says it, then it becomes a conversation. Or I have a friend that was embezzled, or my dad was embezzled. So then it becomes an actual conversation when everyone's talking about it. But I've been in a space where like there's 3 dentists. I'm like, oh no, like I wasn't like that's bad. And then they kind of just stay quiet. I'm like, okay, it's time to move on to a different subject, right? So it's case to case. I do feel like when people call me, there's something that I didn't realize, that when a dentist calls me that they feel like they've been embezzled, they are very vulnerable, and they do have to like go deep dive about what they probably knew for maybe months or years. This says I need help, and I know that there's not a lot of resources where they can call someone or connect with someone when they feel like it's happened or it has already happened, right? So then I'm pretty sure even with the doctor that I worked for in 1997, he got embezzled and probably just said, okay, well, got to move on. But it is something that they don't realize, that they don't. A lot of dentists just don't grow because they protect themselves, right? They protect their practice from not expanding or growing as much as they can. So yeah, I've had a little bit of everything in my business at this point.
And I'm sure as well, like they're never probably catching the individual on the first act. It's usually something that happens again and again and again that, makes enough of a difference that someone can identify, hey, something's not right here. What have you noticed as far as like, what is typically the timeline, or how much on average is actually lost before someone typically catches the fact that there's some mischievous behavior going on?
What's crazy, because first of all, I do want to say that most of my clients that have called and connected with me is the one that they trust and that everybody loves, number one. So that means that they've probably been there for 3 to 4 years, even sometimes I've seen it 10 to 20. And by the time the average embezzlement, by the time someone finds it, it's 1.2 $1 million. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So we're looking about 10,000 a month, and it's so easy to anyone can embezzle about 10,000 a month in a dental practice pretty quick. Yeah, it's easy. I mean, it's an easy embezzlement without getting caught. The 10,000, because you're averaging about 2,000 and a half, 2,500 a week, which is nothing in the dental space for sure.
Mhm. Got it. And specifically for you right now, as we're obviously continuing to grow the business, what have you noticed are the biggest bottlenecks right now that are holding you from continuing to grow? Is it more of like a lead generation problem, a sales problem, a fulfillment problem, capacity, or what specifically is your current bottleneck?
Oh boy. Yeah. So this, I actually started, I actually just uh, started thinking about this is delegate to delegate, delegate, delegate. I actually became partners, which is, I'm just so happy. About 2 months ago, I became partners with a guy that we both have the same idea about streamlining front offices. And he has really, we became partners, and one of the things is visualizing like how I wanted my business. So I had an idea, but then you deal with people, right? So your ideas will change so much because one person will say, "Yes, I want to hire you. Now talk to my team." I'm like, "No, no, no, no. Whoa! Like this is what gets people in trouble in the first place, right? Is talking to your team. You're the owner. You're the one that's paying the bills, and so for me, is yes, you want that service. You want someone to talk to the team. That's why I'm delegating, and then it's taking my hands off of it. I feel like my first two clients, I got too involved, and you can't do that with the team. You cannot do that because the team will have their ideas. Team has they're always going to criticize you, right? Because you're the one that's coming in and walking in versus they're there 8 hours a day trying to make things happen. And then for me is delegating and how to disconnect myself from the team and stay focused with the doctor. When I stay focused with the doctor, I feel like things are going the right way. So that was my first two clients' mistakes was the team was calling me on my phone. And I'm like, no, 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 like I can't do this. So it's been some pain in
Sure.
this. Sure.
And it sounds like a part of that too is clear set expectations for, where the boundaries may be for the team as well, for yourself. So, okay, as we look to the future here, really the next, let's say 6 to 12 months, what are the top core priorities that you're focusing on right now?
So I'm actually working on, which I'm excited. I'm actually going to start next week, is focusing on doing some webinars and to get dentists that are either starting their business, like what to do before they start their business. So one of the things that's so big, and I didn't realize it until I got deep into it, is credentialing. What credentialing is like the insurance is what kind they're going to get into. So I will be focusing a lot on that because credentialing can make or break your practice when you start or when you transition, when you buy a practice and when you go into one to the other. So webinars, for me, it's webinars and get a couple of dentists. And I really want to just do it private where everybody can ask questions and get involved. So that's number one. And number two is, of course, do some podcasts with the dentist that I've actually have been clients with. So it's exciting because now the dentist will say, look, before Elaine and after Elaine's, like, how I have clarity, with where I'm going and what I'm doing in the front, as a private practice. Like I've always said, my thing is, if you're the most valuable person in that practice, then your practice becomes less valuable because the dentist needs to understand how their business is growing. And if they decide to get out and take 3 months off or 6 months off, they can put another dentist there and understand their books and what's happening in their growth.
Mhm. Absolutely. A couple more questions here before we wrap up. For you specifically, in the world of entrepreneurship, what is the best piece of advice you've ever personally received?
I feel like for me is and I don't know if I would say receive, but I know that one of my biggest choices was to join groups, like join, like I would say join a group that is part of your space because you don't feel alone, and then you can really get great friendships. Like with the DSOs, and I've joined a couple of groups, and I think when you hear them, like we don't talk about the business, we just talk about life and what we're doing, and just have fun as the process is going. So for me is I'm just I'm just literally just like trying to just stay and put my foot in there. And when everyone's there, you got marketing, you got people that do websites. So you have a lot of different people in the dental space that you can connect with and just listen to what they're doing and say, okay, they're doing it, then I can. And so that's probably one of the best things that I've had is that support in the dental space.
Gotcha. And would that be the same advice you'd give to someone maybe starting out in their own entrepreneurial endeavor, or would that advice change in any way?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I feel like if you decide that you want to, be a consultant or do, RCM and do a business, and you're just, there with your clients in one town, you really can't grow. I always say and get out there and really see who's out there, because one person, and it doesn't have to even be like the one that inspired me wasn't even a consultant. She does marketing, and I see her, she does branding for dentists, and I saw her, and I just saw how much she respected and loved me, and I was like, I love her, and then you start getting invited to different things, and then you go to them, and then you feel like it's a family. So whatever space you're in, if you're in the dental or anywhere, it's like try to get into some groups, go to some conferences are amazing, because you really can go out there and just get not only ideas, but also feel like you're not alone, and everyone is there, and no one started from the top. Everyone starts from the bottom, and goes to the top. So that would be my advice is just get in there and get involved.
Excellent advice. Elaine, I want to thank you for joining us here on this episode. To all of our listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find more resources and insights at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their sales through trained appointment setters and closers, as well as world-class marketing systems. Until then, keep climbing, and we'll see you on the next episode.